For online activists accustomed to a steady stream of vitriol, it was a typical day on the digital battlefield. But the Washington establishment was slow to grasp the breach in the body politic fueling these ferocious social media clashes. By 2018, however, mainstream pundits had begun to acknowledge what the online community had known for years, that traditional media narratives were no longer adequate to describe the severity of the red-blue split. Appearing on CNN, Watergate reporter Carl Bernstein declared that America was in a cold civil war, and that Trump's bellicose rhetoric had brought it to the point of ignition. Bernstein's bleak assessment was echoed by NBC's Chuck Todd, who tweeted, "Let's be blunt. Our political parties are waging a cold civil war." New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman fretted, "I began my journalism career covering a civil war in Lebanon. I never thought I'd end my career covering a civil war in America." The fear that America is on the cusp of, or may already be embroiled in, some form of internecine war is well-founded. On August 12, 2017, Heather Heyer, a 32-year-old progressive activist, was mowed down by a white supremacist as she took part in a counter-protest against neo-Nazis in Charlottesville, Virginia. Earlier that summer, at a baseball field 121 miles from the site of Heyer's murder, a domestic abuser who belonged to a Facebook group called Terminate the Republican Party opened fire on Republican lawmakers practicing for the annual congressional baseball game, wounding 4 people. In a violent October 2018, the neo-fascist gang Proud Boys clashed with the anti-fascist group Antifa in Portland and New York City. Cell phone video of the Manhattan melee showed a group of Proud Boys shouting slurs as they swarmed and stomped 2 victims. The New York Times reported that members of the group were seen exulting about smashing the head of a foreigner. Later that month, a Trump supporter who had attacked liberals on social media mailed improvised explosive devices to CNN, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and a number of other prominent Democrats and progressive donors, including billionaires Tom Steyer and George Soros. As news of the mail bombs broke, author and commentator Jared Yates Sexton tweeted, "When I was reporting from Trump rallies, his supporters were talking about murder and violent revolution. They talked about killing the exact people who were targeted today." Digital activist Caitlin Bird reacted to the news with a Twitter thread about the roots of right-wing violence. "Whether it is cheering the likes of Jesse James, or riding through the night with bedsheets and torches, or shooting doctors, or firebombing churches, or murdering 168 people for the sin of being in a federal building, these people and their goals have always been with us," Bird wrote, arguing that the threat of violence was not random. "It is not isolated, it is not unpredictable, it is not unprecedented. It is the legacy of selfishness and white supremacy that we refuse to challenge, and it will come for us until we confront it," she tweeted. Right-wing media put their own spin on the story, claiming that the intercepted explosive devices were an elaborate Democratic hoax. Michael Savage, a radio host who once mocked veterans suffering from PTSD, proclaimed that it was a high probability the entire incident was a false flag to gain sympathy for the Democrats, and to get our minds off the hordes of illegal aliens approaching our southern border. Right-wing radio personality Rush Limbaugh, whose angry anti-liberal rants have shaped the views of a generation of Republicans, asked, "What sense does it make for a conservative Republican to gum up the works here by sending a bunch of bombs that are not going to go off and that are going to be discovered?" Gateway Pundit, an influential far-right website, crowed that mainstream reporters were so hoping this story of faulty bombs would sway Trump voters to change behavior 10 days.